Is this a dagger I see before me? The handle toward my hand, come, let me clutch thee. Well, good morning, lads, lasses, and non-binary folk. How are we all feeling today? We feeling particularly dramatic? Feeling like we want to be part of the stage and screen? That we wish to shake some spears at people? Oh, 3 to start with. Oh, goodness. This, concurrent viewers thing is completely useless. Good morning, Cardbox, Tiberian, and Panda Knives. I feel like I slept well. You feel like you slept well? So you woke up in the morning and you said, within my mind's eye, I have the slightest inkling that I may have slept well last night. And yes, you did get us Among Us, with the Among Us. I feel, in some way, I slept well last night. I'm not too sure how, but I did. Be more sure of yourself, mate. You're the one who slept. I feel like I wasted $25. What, did it cost $25 to send that message? Because, yes, I would call that a bit financially irresponsible. I feel regret. Like an idiot. Oh dear. Regret. Oh, well, don't worry. It keeps building up the older you get. You'll never escape it. Oh, yes. Got something. Give me a moment. I'm going to stand stoically and stare straight into the distant screen. I don't know why I'm wearing headphones. It's not like you're talking to me. Hey, there we are. Spent it on Destiny 2's anniversary DLC, but the content is locked until you play the same event 100 times, like cosmetics. Oh, wonderful. The wonderful world of cosmetics, eh? Oh, I did try and get to Destiny. I was quite enamored with Destiny 1, but Destiny 2 never captured me, and I didn't want to spend all the money on it. It was fun when it lasted. I just got tired of trying to organize lots of little people into raid teams. That was a pain. And almost never being as good as everyone else because I don't have the time. But yes, my hands. You see a lot of them this time. I'm gonna stop moving those. Tiring. A lot more tiring than I expected. But yes, today we're... Did anyone say how they're feeling other than Panda Knives feeling like they regretted spending $20 on Destiny's anniversary DLC? Actually, I remember that. That's the one with the Halo stuff in it, right? The Halo assault rifle or battle rifle and Magnum. I remember that. I saw an ad for it at some point. Seemed quite interesting. Around when I was playing, I'm okay. That's good. Better than not being okay, I suppose. But yes, I remember seeing an ad about that DLC around the time I was playing Halo Infinite. Interesting. It was shown to me, I imagine, because I kept talking about playing Halo in front of my phone. Stupidity. But yes, we're in a dramatic mood today. I'm feeling quite good. I've got back into editing. Trying to decipher the strange and archaic notes I left for myself all those months ago when I last edited these videos. You never know. I'm hoping by the end of this week there'll be another episode of that Resident Evil highlights out. Only 6 months after the last one. Life gets in the way, unfortunately. But yes, so I've gone back into editing. I've done a few other things. I'm feeling quite nice recently. And my poison for today, by the way, is just a cup of Earl Grey tea. Just a cup of Earl Grey, mate. Delicious. Mildura. Not Mildura. Madura? Keep wanting to say Mildura. But yes, Madura. Cup of Madura tea, mate. Delicious. That caffeine content? My poison is poison. Well, look at you. Aren't you fabulous? Showing us all up, aren't you? By actively poisoning yourself. But yes. Poison indeed. An interesting thing. Shakespeare. Has anyone here actually performed any Shakespeare or had to do any Shakespeare back in high school? You probably all had to do Shakespeare back in high school. There's no one has escaped that particular terrible thing. Well, is Shakespeare all the time? Nope. Nope to performing or no to studying it. I've definitely performed it. Not much of it, unfortunately. I drink Skyrim potion glass with a green liquid poison. Ooh, wow. Fabulous. Got some performing. Yeah, it's fair enough. Most people have studied it. Unfortunately, one of the classics. I remember a while back there was some anniversary for Shakespeare that made my nieces and nephews suffer. Because they had to do a lot of Shakespeare because of his big anniversary. It's 500 years or something. I never did Shakespeare in high school. Really? Good God. Where did you live? Under a rock? They always love making people do Shakespeare. If you're an English-speaking country, it's Shakespeare, because he's pretty much the only piece of culture most of the English-speaking population has. Bit rough, eh? But yes, I've read it, I've analyzed it, and I've made I've written my own monologue. Not in Shakespearean prose, unfortunately, but I did write a monologue based on one of the Shakespearean characters. So, that was quite interesting. Maybe we'll get around to it today. I think I've read it before on the streams. Yes, good old Billy Wobblestick. What my old teacher used to call them. It's my favourite way of referring to him. Ain't Shakespeare, it's Billy Wobblestick. You know, Billy Wobblestick. Because he has quite a lot. He has sonnets, he has his monologues from his actual plays. They're all quite good. And I think I'll go through some of my favourites. There's that speech from the one I always keep quoting. But yes! Any dramatic experience at all in this group of people? Anyone here perform in plays, musicals, or otherwise? Write any monologues yourself? Write any poetry when you were young? That lucky girl you wanted to is that how people woo girls now? Is it poetry still? Good old poetry back in the day. Just making sure I have some of the things I want to speak through. It has to be one of my more favourite things, poetry, you know? And Shakespeare monologues. He has very good prose. Ah, speaking of prose. I was on the stage for something in elementary school, but I don't remember what. It was non-speaking role, I see. But yes, I think I'll do some of the. I'll try and. Maybe I should set up a camera. That would be very funny. Maybe we should start two. Have a button for both. Because I want to do one of the scenes, one of my favorite scenes from Shakespeare's. Very good. Sorry, I was just reading it. It was very good. But yes, oh well. I've done a musical before. And I've done instrumental parts in other musicals. And a few acting parts here and there. I've acted out a few of the scenes from Shakespeare, but never a full Shakespeare play. They're very long. And I was never part of, like, the local troupe. I just helped out occasionally. So I don't really have all that much experience either, and you'll find, but... What shall we start with? What shall we start with? $130. Let's start with the very famous sonnet by Shakespeare. I think Vanessa was a musical, but she was scared because she sang everything quietly and monotone on stage. Yes, I can't say my singing was very good back then either. I was afraid of singing back then. I just got dragged into the musical I was the lead role for. I was the lead role for a musical when I hadn't sung in years. There wasn't many male actors at my school back when I was in high school. I did have a best friend though, spectacular actor. Hated singing though, so he refused to do the part. And I was not monologue, my voice was strained. So it had that kind of strained, unrefined feeling to it. Also, I'm close to a baritone and tone, and like a pitch when I sing, so I tend to not be able to handle the higher parts, because you could say I don't have a higher calling in music. That's terrible. But yes, they sung, most musicals were quite high, even for guys, so, and I wasn't a bass, so I couldn't do the bass parts. And that was a real problem. So I tended to be quite a... Yeah. My lines were alright, I think. My acting was passable. It's very easy to get into it when somebody next to you is much more into it than you are, and you're like, ah, stuff it. It's all about practice, anyway. I practiced a lot. Well, let's start with Sonnet 130 by Shakespeare. This is a very famous one. You may know it from its title that it's given, because it's its first line. Shakespeare's sonnets were lots of little things he wrote. They are, you know, he published a book full of all these little things. They're full of, they're like letters written in the sort of prose he's famous for. They all have 14 lines. I'm pretty sure they're all in his iambic pentameter. Iambic pentameter. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that. But yeah, they're poems. They're poems written by Shakespeare. He has 154 of them. It's a lot. We're not getting through all of them. We'll read one or two. This one's called My Mistress' Eyes Are Nothing Like the Sun. My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips red. If snow be white, why then her breasts are dun. If her hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. I have seen roses damasked, red and white, but no such roses I see in her cheeks. And in some perfumes is there more delight than in the breath that comes from my mistress reeks. I love to hear her speak, yet I know well that music hath a far more pleasing sound. I grant I never saw a goddess go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. And yet by heaven, I think my love is rare, as any she belied with false compare. It's hard to tell if he likes his mistress or not. With that sort of talk. Oh look, the bots have already come. I am quite popular with these fellows. But yes, I do know that one, quite famous. My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. But he still loves her true, which is nice. Good to know that true love existed back then. He has another one. In faith, I do not love thee with mine eyes. It's a very similar one to the last. Sonnet 141. In faith, I do not love thee with mine eyes. For they in thee 1,000 errors note. But 'tis my heart that loves what they despise, who in despite of view is pleased to dote. Nor are mine ears with thy tongue's tune delight, nor tender feeling to touch base torches prone, nor taste nor smell desire to be invited to any sensual feast with thee alone. But my 5 wits nor my 5 senses can dissuade one foolish heart from serving thee, who leaves unswayed like the likeness of a man, thy proud heart's slave and vassal wretch to be. Only my plague thus far I count my gain, that she that makes me sin awards me pain. Sounds like my friend Bully Wobblestick was a bit of a fan of getting hit with the wobblestick. Yes, they're pretty much in everyone's streams. Yes, I've noticed. They're a lot more common these days. I don't have much problem with them. Maybe I'm making it. How'd you enjoy those 2 sonnets? Both of quite negative towards the general appearance, grace, and stance of their mistresses, but with a lot of love, weirdly enough. There's a can't even speak. All this, these, thous, and those, and mines and that's, getting under my tongue. Oh, Billy Wobblestick. Certainly a strange one he is. But yes. Any suggestions? Know of any famous speeches you want me to do? Hell, I'll do some famous speeches if you want. What's that meme monologue? The, just do it monologue. That's it. Do it! Just do it! But let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday you said tomorrow, so just do it. That one. Maybe I should do that. Didn't come prepared, sorry, no problems. I have a lot. And then Shakespeare already has more and more and more and more. It's practically infinite. I wonder if there's anything good in King Lear to read. There was a jester in King Lear, right? What about the Tempest? Tempest monologues. Tempest is the one everyone loves. It's good. Monologues in the Tempest. Wow. What an interesting speech. Let's do a famous one. Let's do the Scottish plays. Famous Is That a Dagger I See Before Me speech. There's another one I can probably do from this as well, but do it. I'm the Scottish king. Let's get myself a crown. I wonder if I can. Are there really people named Namek? Are there? Namek is salt, right? But I imagine it's a last name of some kind. Namek. Oh, excuse me. Any modern name? Oh well. Couldn't say, Tiberian. A bit of a strange question out of nowhere, but did I say something that would make you think there are people called Namek? Isn't Namek from Dragon Ball Z? Oh, yes. It's the bot's name. Ah. I didn't even read the bot's name. I just see their message and turn it off. Now let's try this. That's right, I was giving myself a crown, wasn't I? Crown. Noak done. Give myself a PNG of a crown. Stick it on my head. Think but dare not speak. These thoughts of mine, their implications, dark and dangerous. Add a prop. There we are. There we are. I'm Macbeth. The Scottish king. Sounds Turkish, maybe. Not too sure where it comes from, but I'm pretty sure something Namak is salt, or some sort of unpurified salt. So, perhaps, if you can find where that salt comes from, you might know where the name comes from. I don't know how I know that. Yeah, the Dead Sea, I suppose. Okay. Is this a dagger which I see before me? The handle toward my hand. Come, let me clutch thee. I have not, and yet I see thee still. Thou art not a fatal vision sensible to feelings as to sight, or art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation proceeding from the heat-oppressed brain? I see thee yet in form as palpable as which I now draw. Thou marshalst me the way that I was going, and such an instrument I was to use. Mine eyes are made the fools of the other senses, or else worth all the rest. I see thee still, and on thy blade and dudgeon gouts of blood, which was not so before. There is no such thing. It is a bloody business which informs thy thus to mine eyes. Now o'er the one half-world, nature seems dead, and wicked dreams abuse the curtained sleep witchcraft celebrates. Pale Hecate's offering and withered murder. Our room by his sentinel the wolf, whose howls his watch thus with his steady pace, with Tarquin's ravishing stride toward his design, moves like a ghost. Our sure and firm set earth, hear not my steps in which they walk, for fear thy very stones prate of my whereabouts, and take the present horror from the time, which now suits with it, while I threat he lives. Words to the heat of deeds too cold give breath gives. I go, and it is done. The bell invites me. Hear not, Duncan, for it is a knell that summons thee to heaven or to hell. The speech he makes before he kills the king in the Scottish play. Very dramatic, isn't it? I do love that speech. And there's some very nice Shakespearean. I feel like this was very difficult to understand, even when it was new. You could find somebody doing a translation. Let's see what a translation says. One of his soliloquies, famous soliloquies. It's very interesting, Sparkles. Namek is Persian. Urdu, Hindi word, common word for salt. I told you. Here's the English translation. The modern English translation. Let's try this one. The modern English translation is this a dagger? I see it before me. Is this a dagger I see in front of me, with its handle pointing toward my hand? Come, let me hold you. I don't have you, but I can still see you. Fateful apparition. Isn't it possible to touch you as well as see you? Or are you nothing more than a dagger created by the mind, a hallucination from my fevered brain? I can still see you, and you look as real as this other dagger that I'm pulling out now. You're leading me toward the place I was already going, and I was planning to use a weapon just like you. My eyesight must be the one sense that is not working, or else it's the only one that is working right. I can still see you, yet the blood splotches on your blade and the handle that weren't there before. There is no dagger here. It is the murder I'm about to do that is making me think I see one. Now half the world is asleep and being besieged by evil nightmares. Witches are offering sacrifices to their goddess Hecate. The old man, Murder, having been roused by the howls of his wolf, walks silently to his destination, moving like Tarquin, as quiet as a ghost. Hard ground, don't listen to the direction of my steps. I do not want you to echo back where I am and break this terrible stillness. A silence that is so appropriate for what I am about to do. While I stay here talking, Duncan lives. The more I talk, the more my courage cools. There we are. Slightly more understandable, eh? And yes, it's very interesting. Tarquin is a famous story of a Roman who snuck into a woman's bedroom and did terrible things. So it's strangely appropriate that he used Tarquin as silent as ghost in his phrase. Much better. I still think I need to read it a few times. But the fun is the kind of flowing prose of it. Classic. To be or not to be? That is the question. That sort of thing. Get rid of my crown. I don't need it anymore. I should get a dagger. I wonder if I could download a dagger and put it on my hand. Let's see if we can do that. Add the prop. Dagger. My hand up. Let's see if this works. No, it doesn't, does it? Can't get it to attach to my hand. A shame. A shame indeed. I should have floated a dagger before me, so I could go, is this a dagger I see before me? Try and grasp it. Silly me. Missed opportunities. Perhaps next time. But yes, Shakespeare is quite interesting. I've done a lot of analysis of Shakespeare when I was younger. But he's quite direct a lot of the time. Yes, he uses his metaphors and his that sort of thing, and his allusions and stuff like that, but it's a lot more direct than most things. I feel like these days people are much more likely to dig so very deep into something. Practically think it's half the problem of making people do all this sort of analysis. They all become theory YouTubers. And lo, we have any more of those. Lo betide if we have any more of those. The Caliban. The Tempest. Very fancy one, this one, too. The Tempest, Caliban. Act 2, Scene 2, Line 1. All the infections that the sun sucks up from bogs, fen, flats, on prosper fall and make him. By inch meal a disease, his spirits hear me, and yet my needs must curse. But they'll nor pinch, fright me with urchin shows, pitch me up in the mire, nor lead me like a firebrand in the dark, out of my way, unless he bid them. But for every trifle are they set upon me, sometimes like apes that mow and chatter at me, and after bite me, then like hedgehogs which lie tumbling in my barefoot way, and mount their pricks at my footfalls. Sometimes I am all wound with adders, whose cloven tongues do hiss me into madness. Enter Trinculo. Lo now, lo! Here comes a spirit of his in to torment me. For bringing wood and slowly I'll fall flat. Perchance he will not mind me. Caliban is the name of another name for Excalibur, I believe. And also in this play he was Caliban, the son of the witch, I believe. And he's, what is it? He's the son of some sort of witch, and he's like misshapen, I believe. That's his whole thing. He's very misshapen and depressed, as you can tell. He's not very happy about what's happened to him. Stuck on an island in the Tempest. Very interesting. Very interesting. I've not really watched. I've got to read The Tempest again. It's quite good. Here's a nice one. Another one from The Tempest. It was an MMORPG where the Troll's enemies were named Caliban. That's where I remember it from. Well, that's why he was misshapen and sullen and quite sad. I can't remember what he was supposed to represent when people analysed Shakespeare, because I never really analysed The Tempest in my time. There are people who turn into trolls from taking a drug, so it makes sense. Ah, I see. Interesting. But yes, perhaps I'll read this one. Another one from The Tempest. I think it's a woman's. Miranda, the girl who is stuck on the island as well. I think she's the only woman on this island. She was a child when she first arrived. And so this speech is... This Ferdinand fellow is in love with her. And so this is her speech talking about how she doesn't understand if she's beautiful enough because she's never seen another woman. So it's spoken from the woman's perspective. So. I do not know, one of my sex, no woman's face remember, save from my glass, my own, nor have I seen more that I may call men than you, good friend. And my dear father, how features are abroad, I am skilless of, but by my modesty, the jewel in my dower, I would not wish any companion in the world but you. Nor can I imagine form a shape, besides yourself, to like of. But I prattle. Something too wildly in my father's precepts. I therein do not forget. Do you love me? I am a fool to weep at what I am glad of, at mine unworthiness that dare not offer what I desire to give, and much less take what I shall die to want. But this is trifling, and all the more it seeks to hide itself. The bigger bulk it shows, hence of bashful cunning, and prompt me plain and holy innocence. I am your wife. Will you marry me? If not, I'll die your maid, to be your fellow. You may deny me, but I'll be your servant, whether you will or no. There you go. Change genders there. I should have done it like a woman's voice, like, I do not know, one of my sex, no woman's face I remember. Save from my glass, my own, nor have I seen more any that I may call men than you, good friend. There you go. Gender changing. Progressive. This sort of thing's quite interesting. So I think they do get married in the end. I don't think Tempest is a tragedy, so it's one of the more joyous forms of things, really. So Ferdinand and Miranda get married. Old Prospero, probably. Were all the parts played by men back then? Yes, they would have been, yes. Bad luck to have a woman on stage, I believe. If that was the phrase. Bit of an old boys club. Who, I don't know, kept saying that they weren't gay. I feel that's why, that sort of culture of, only men acting. Was why, that sort of culture was formed around the fact that because was it Puritans, I think? And so that created this culture of only men, but the problem is, I'm pretty sure wherever there's a culture of only men, there's a culture of men sleeping with each other. So that's perhaps where what was the phrase I was looking for? That's perhaps where that idea of the arts, especially acting, being associated with homosexuality likely came from. Some of the most famous Shakespearean actors that I can think of are homosexual, so it's probably not too far from the truth. Well, can't make those kind of wild assumptions, but I will. But yes, it's very interesting, all of this. So yes, most of the parts were played by men. It's quite an interesting piece of history, really. There was a thought that it endangered public morals of some sort, you know? It wasn't until like, the 15th, 16th, or 17th century. And the same thing is with Japanese stuff, completely separate from it. A lot of Japanese traditional acting is done by men alone. Kabuki theatre is the one I can think of. And No theatre. Both are only men, even though they have female characters. It's quite famous that there are very beautiful Kabuki actors. Yes, it's quite interesting how they do the whole makeup and stuff for the kabuki as men. Ancient Greeks didn't let women act either. What is with not letting... I know the Japanese thought it was because it would endanger public morals or something like that. Onnagata. Onnagata. Female role. Also Omiya. Just looking at the bit of history of kabuki. Apparently, many kabuki theatres in the 17th century had an all-female cast. Ah. Oh, that's a great piece of kit. Oh, goodness. Give me a moment. Oh, that's funny. That is very funny. I've got to add a limiter so I don't blast out this when I start laughing. This is from Wikipedia about kabuki. So, you know, all female casts on the kabuki with women playing men roles as necessary. Wakashu kabuki. Wakashu. Adolescent boy kabuki with a cast composed of entirely of young attractive men playing both male and female roles and subsequently dealing in erotic themes. Circa 1612. Both onnagata and wakushu, or wakshugata, actors specializing in adolescent female roles, usually adolescent themselves, were subject to much appreciation by both male and female patrons, but were often prostitutes. All male casts became the norm after 1629, when women were banned from appearing in kabuki due to the prevalent prostitution of actresses and violent quarreling amongst patrons for the actresses' favors. This ban failed to stop the problems, however, since the young male wakushu actors were also fervently pursued by patrons. Oh, the government can't ban people for being stupid. Both men and women will be controlled by their genitals any time of the day. No government mandate will stop that, unfortunately. The Puritans tried. That's why, pretty sure the Shakespeare and Elizabethan things didn't allow for women in the theatre. The original sense, indeed. Oh, it's so... Oh, that's very good. That is... Oh, goodness, imagine. It's also mildly worrying. The wakushu actors were mostly adolescents, so... Put two and two together, it seems the Catholic Church isn't the only one in the need of a royal commission. Ah! In 1642, onnagata roles were forbidden, and resulting in plays that featured only male characters. These plays continued to have erotic content, and generally featured many wakushu roles, often dealing in themes of nanshoku, homosexuality. And you wonder why they're not more open to homosexuality in Japan. Officials responded by banning wakushu roles as well. Oh, I see. The ban on onnaka was lifted in 1644 and on wakushu in 1652. Wow, it didn't last very long. On the condition that all actors, regardless of roles, adopted the adult male hairstyle with the shaved pate. Onnagata and wakushu actors soon began wearing small purple headscarves, murasaki boshi, to cover the shaved portion, which became iconic signifiers of their roles and became invested in the erotic significance as well. Ooh. After authorities rescinded the ban on wig wearing by the onnagata and wakushu actors, the murasaki boshi was replaced by a wig and now survives within a few older plays as a ceremonial accessory. In the 19th century, the end of the 19th century, the first film was introduced, and oyama actors continued to portray female roles in movies until the early 1920s. There you go. There's an oasis where single men and boys were forced to stay outside the city walls during the night and similar culture involved. Yes! You can't escape it. From the Greeks to the Romans, the Japanese to the Puritan Christians. It's almost like that sort of thing has existed for a very long time and you can't stop it. I think it was in Egypt. Ah, look at that. Oyama still continue to appear in kabuki today. Not surprising. Very interesting, though. There we are, learning something. Don't say I'd ever teach you anything. Yes, it's quite curious. I'd be curious about the ancient Greek reason why. look at this. I got Women History Month. Ah! There you go. Good old sexist Greeks. Gotta love them. Antigone. Women were not allowed on the stage, and because it was considered to be dangerous, men played male characters as well as female characters. The Greeks believed that allowing women to perform publicly would be too dangerous. Ooh. And that having men portray them neutralized the danger. There you go. Very interesting. Sort of thing is always very curious, isn't it? Let's finish. Let's not finish. I'm not going to be going for as long as I can. It'll turn into a bit more of a free chat, really. Why can't I never think of things? Oh. But yes. Let's do the very famous to be or not to be speech, eh? From Hamlet. Spoken by Hamlet. Oh, let's do Alas, Poor Yorick. Alas, poor Yorick. Another Hamlet quote. Yes, okay, let's do this first famous Hamlet speech. To be or not to be, that is the question. And if you're a android character from a particular Japanese video game, to be or not to be is the question. But it is not about whether it is nobler in mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrage and fortune. No, it is whether it is nobler in mind to use hundreds of polygons to perfectly shape a fictional android's rear end. But it's nobler in mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous curvaceousness, or take up arms against a sea of polygons, and by opposing end them. To die, to sleep, no more, and by sleep to say we end. The heartache and the thousand natural slaves. Okay, let us actually do the speech. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler in mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, take up arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them. To die, to sleep no more, and by sleep we say to end. The heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished. To die, to sleep perchance, to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death what dreams may come, when we have shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us pause. There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life. For those would bear the whips and scorns of time, the presses wrong, the proud man's contemptuity, the pangs of disparate love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit the unworthy takes. When he himself might his quietus make, with bare bodkin, who would fardels bear, to grunt and sweat under a weary life. But that dread of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveller returns, puzzles the will, and makes us rather bear those ills we have, than fly to others that we know not of. Thus conscience doth make cowards of us all, and thus the native few of resolution is sicklied o'er the pale cast of thought, and enterprises of great peace and moment with this regard their currents turn awry, and lose the name of action. Funnily enough, both these speeches end similarly. The one, Macbeth's dagger speech, ends also with a sort of lament of loss of action if nothing is done. Interesting. A thing he likes, I suppose. My nose is very itchy today. Think chance to dream. I wonder how well that's doing. I should advertise myself again soon. Wow. Sometimes my stuff just does not get the impressions I want. You enjoying yourselves, everyone? How are we all feeling? Anything you think of that you want me to read out? I'll extend it to anything you think would be funny for me to read. Knock yourselves out. Mr. MIT. While you think, I will do another once more hunt to the breach, my friends. Once more. Is that where the Undiscovered Countries subtitle in that Star Trek movie come? Yes. Yes, probably. You see, Star Trek has a very interesting relationship with Shakespeare. Especially the new generation, what's his name? Sir Patrick, what's his name? Ah, goodness. What is that man's name? Sir Patrick. Sir Patrick Stewart, I believe, was a Shakespeare actor. Good God, he's 81 these days. Oh. Goodness gracious, mate. Is he really that old these days? You couldn't see it. Man has aged as gracefully as you'd think. But yes, he worked with the Royal Shakespeare, I think, for a while. So, and he played one of the captains in the new captain in the new generation, and he constantly references Shakespeare. Jean-Luc Picard. Star Trek Picard. Oh, was that movie any good? Yeah, Jean-Luc Picard loved quoting Shakespeare. Oh, they did like it. I've got to get around to watching it. I like Patrick Stewart. So, yes. It has an interesting relationship with Shakespeare, old Star Trek. Especially in the new generation, but it was likely in the old, because back then everything quoted Shakespeare. Shakespeare, you could hardly go 2 steps without stumbling over a Shakespeare quote. Now, where is something else? Maybe I'll read this one. It's very good. Problem is I don't have the ability to change character. Maybe I'll just do this. Swing back and forth. I don't remember what it was about, but it might be the one where they meet God at the center of the galaxy. Oh, I see. They went to meet God. Yeah, that's what that speech was about. Let's do once more Under the Breach, dear friends, and then we'll actually do one of the scenes, if we can. Once more, unto the breach, dear friends, once more. Or close up the wall with our English dead. In peace there is nothing so becomes a man as modest stillness and humility. But when the blast of war blows in our ears, then imitate the action of the tiger. Stiffen the sinews, summon up the blood, disguise fair nature with hard-favoured rage. Then lend the eye of a terrible aspect, let pry through the portage of the head, like a brass cannon, let the brow overwhelm it, as fearfully as doth a gold rock. O'erhang the jutty and confounded base, swilled with the wild and wasteful ocean, now set the teeth and stretch the nostril wide, hold hard the breath, and bend up every spirit to his full height. On, you noblest English, whose blood is fed from fathers of war-proof, fathers that, like so many Alexanders, have in this part from morn till even fought, and sheath their swords for lack of argument. Dishonour not your mothers, now attest that those who you called fathers did beget you. Be copy now now them to men of grosser blood, and teach them how to war. And you, good yeoman, whose limbs were made in England, show us here the mettle of your pasture. Let us swear that you are worth your breeding, which I doubt not. For there is none of you so mean and base, that hath not noble lustre in your eye. I see you like greyhounds in the slips, straining upon the start. The game's afoot. Follow your spirit, and upon this charge, cry God for Harry, England and St. George. I wonder if that's a speech. Horse. Kingdom for a horse. Interesting. Oh, poor old Richard. The bots enjoyed it too, I know, right? They always turn up once I finish the speech. How it is, unfortunately. Yeah. It's very interesting that you can now see how much I scratch my nose. My old big nose. Bulbous thing. A horse, my kingdom for a horse. Just doing another advertisement, considering I'll probably go for a bit longer. No harm in advertising. Well. There we are. Got it. I really wonder about my tweets though sometimes. You know much how Twitter works? The only thing is confounding sometimes. Wish I could figure out what it does or how it works. Very bizarre. Bizarre, that's for sure. Just sort of does things sometimes, eh? But I got a retweet by one of the retweet bots. Very good. I knew that was the correct decision. I never use it. Yes, I didn't before this. Well, I've learnt quite well. Sometimes it confounds me what actually is successful or not. As a tweet. Sometimes my tweets are just... I had the Scream we did last. The Uncharted stream on Sunday. Good God, mate. That thing had so many impressions it almost completely blew all my other stuff out of the water. Granted, it did take a while for it to build up steam, but I don't understand why that tweet, at a time where not many Americans or the biggest market America was on, suddenly all these people are seeing it. It's bizarre. I'll never bloody understand what makes that thing tick, but I can only just game the system as much as I can do so. Something I want to get better at this year. Social media. It's one of my New Year's resolutions. That and doing a bit more collaborations, you know? I think it'll be fun. This time I'll actually organize them properly, though. By the way, YouTube impressions or Twitter impressions? Both, actually. They both are shockingly bizarre. Also, I've realized, is the music distracting? Should I keep the music on? I know that Cardbox doesn't like me having music when I'm doing poetry, but I don't know if the music is required for other things as well. Ugh. The camera keeps losing me because I've put the mic almost in front of my face. Ugh. Is the sound fine, by the way? I forgot to ask. Everything sounding good? A little distracting, but it's fine. That's a bit annoying. I'll turn it off. If it's distracting, it's fine. I'll turn it off. It's now silence. You're alone with your thoughts and mine. Sounds all good. Wonderful. But yes. There are other famous speeches. Let's do the Alas Poor Yorick little scene. We could just do the phrase. Because there's two people in this scene, I believe, the Gravedigger and Hamlet. But let's see. Faith. This is the Gravedigger, by the way. Maybe I should do two voices. Gravedigger will be like, Faith, if he be not rotten before he dies, as we have many pocky hook courses nowadays, that will scarce hold the laying in. He will last you some 8 year or 9 year. A tanner will last you 9 year. And why he more than another? Why, sir, his hide is so tan with his trade that he'll keep out the water a great while. And your water is sore to care of your whole son's dead body. Here's the skull now. This skull has lain in the earth 23 years. Whose was it? A whoreson's maid fellow's it was. Who do you think it was? Nay, I do not know. A pestilence on him for mad rogue. He poured a flagon of Rhenish on my head once. This same skull, sir, it was Yorick's skull, the king's jester. This? E'en that. Let me see. Famous. Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him well. Horatio, a fellow of infinite jest, of most excellent fancy. He hath borne me on his back 1,000 times, and now, how abhorred in my imagination it is, my gorge rises at it. Here hung those lips that I have kissed. I know not how oft where your gibes be now, your gambols, your songs, your flashes of merriment that wont to set the table on a roar. Not one now to mock your own grinning, quite chap fallen. Now get you to my lady's chamber, and tell her, let her paint an inch thick, to this favour she must come. Make her laugh at that. Prithee, Horatio, tell me one thing. What is that, my lord? Dost thou think Alexander looked o'er this fashion in the earth? Even so. And smelt so? Even so, my lord. To what base may we return, Horatio? Why not may imagination trace the noble dust of Alexander till he finds a stopping bunghole? 'Twere consider too curiously, consider so. No, faith, not a jot, but follow him thither with modesty enough, and likelihood lead it. As thus Alexander died, Alexander was buried. Alexander returneth to dust. The dust is earth, of earth we make loam. And that's why of loam, whereto he was converted, might they not stop a beer barrel? Imperious Caesar, dead and turned to clay, might stop a hole to keep the wind away. Oh, that earth, which kept the world in awe, should patch a wall to expel the winter's thaw, but soft a while. Hamlet was an interesting fellow. Quite mad in his play. He is, he was the one that was quite, cautious. Detrimentally so. Quite mad in a way. The ghost. Haunted by the ghost. He was. The ghost of Hamlet's father. The characters based on real people? Some were. I don't know if this one was. I believe Hamlet was the tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, often shortened to Hamlet. Shakespeare's longest play. Oh, there you go. I don't think it is based off it. Oh, there you go. Shakespeare of Hamlet was derived from the legend of Amleth, preserved by the 13th century scholar Saxo Grammaticus in his Gesta Danorum, as subsequently retold by the 16th century scholar Francesc de Belenfort. Shakespeare may have also drawn on an early Elizabethan play known as Hamlet, though some scholars believe Shakespeare wrote Hamlet, revising it later to create the version of Hamlet that exists today. He almost wrote his version the title role for his fellow actor Richard Burbage, leading to tragedian of Shakespeare's time. The leading tragedian of Shakespeare's time. But yes, this one is based on a earlier legend, which then also may be based on people. It's a of the third degree sort of referential thing. So some of them were. You have Macbeth, which people believe was based on actual occasions, or at least based on a real situation. People believe, perhaps, the Scottish play. I should spit around 3 times and spit over my shoulder. Yes. Of all the plays that Shakespeare wrote during the reign of King James, Macbeth most clearly reflects his relationship with King James, the patron of Shakespeare's acting company. Ooh. Ouch. There's various things, and it's very different depending. They're all fictional in a way, but they're likely all like we would say fiction is based on real things these days. Most fiction is based on something, but his were placed in real locations based on real political environments. A lot of them were quite often political theatre. Shakespeare had a penchant for playing the masses. So, Richard III was such a play. It was more likely propaganda than anything else. Or it paints Richard in a particularly poor light. And yes, he lost a war, but it doesn't mean he's a bad king. Let's try Verona, Act 1, Scene 1, a public place. This is the people of the House Capulet. Let's try and give them all different voices, eh? Starts with the members of House Capulet. This is Romeo and Juliet. Tragedy of Romeo and Juliet, the first scene. Sets up the conflict between the Capulets and the Montagues. Verona, a public place. This is Samson and Gregory. Enter Samson and Gregory, House of Capulet, armed with swords and bucklers. Gregory, oh my word, will carry not coals. No, for then we shall be colliers. I mean, we'll be in collar, we'll draw. Aye, while you live, draw your neck out of the collar. I strike quickly, being moved. But thou art not moved quickly to strike. A dog of the house of Montague moves me. Ah, to move is to stir, and to be valiant is to stand. Therefore, if thou art moved, thou'st running away. A dog of that house shall move me to stand. I will take a wall of any man or maid of Montague. That shows thou thee a weak slave, for the weakest goes to the wall. True, and therefore women, being the weaker vessels, are ever thrust into the wall. Therefore I will push the Montague's men from the wall, and thrust his maid to the wall. Ah, the quarrel of our masters and us mere men. 'Tis all one, I will show myself a tyrant. When I have fought with the men, I will be cruel with the maids, and cut off their heads. The heads of the maids? Aye, the heads of the maids, or their maiden heads. Take in what sense thou wilt. They must take it in the sense they feel it. Me they shall feel while I am able to stand. And 'tis known that I am a pretty piece of flesh. 'Tis well now known, art not fish. If thou hadst been poor, John. Draw thy tool. Here comes the two of House of Montague. My naked weapon is out. Quarrel, I will back thee. How? Turn thy back and run? Fear me not. No, marry, I fear thee. Let us take the law out of our sides. Let them begin. I'll frown as I pass by, and let them take in they list. Nay, as they dare, I will bite my thumb at them, which is a disgrace to them, if they bear it. Enter Abraham and Balthazar. Ooh, that's a nice. Do you bite your thumb at us, sir? I bite my thumb at you, sir. I do bite my thumb, sir. Do you bite your thumb at us, sir? The law is the law of our side. If I say A, no, 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 sir. I do not bite my thumb at you, sir, but I bite my thumb, sir. Do you quarrel, sir? Quarrel, sir? No, sir. If you do so, I am for you. I serve as a good man as you. No better. Well, sir, say better. Here comes one of my master's kinsmen. Yes, better, sir, better. You lie. Draw, if it be your men, Gregory. Remember thy swashing blow. Oh, that's a good scene. But, goodness, I forgot about the amount of dirty jokes in this bloody play. Oh. I will cut off their heads. Cut off the heads of the maids. Aye, the heads of the maids, or their maiden heads. Take it as they will. Oh. We'll be able to make many plays about kings and not make some political. That's true. That's true. Plays about leaders of the time will always be political. I'm waiting for my Shakespearean play of Donald Trump. That's the part I remember studying in high school. Yes. The part where Samson and Gregory talk about having sex with women. It's very fun. It would be funner if it wasn't them planning to do some horrible things to the poor women of the time. All because they're serving House Montague. Stupidity. Explain the thumb bugging. Yes, but I imagine she didn't explain the maidenhead thing, did she? Can't imagine that would have been very... Yes, the thumb biting. I believe the equivalents. Let's see if I can bite my thumb. Bite my thumbs, oh. It doesn't work. The camera can't catch it there. Damn. Do you bite your thumb at me, sir? I bite my thumb at you, sir. It's very interesting, though. She was a strict Irish woman. The rumor is that she was a former nun. Ah, a former nun. Interesting. She denied it. Well, it's an interesting rumor to come about. But yes, yeah. I should do something from Midsummer Night's Dream. Anything from Midsummer Dream that are good? Ah, that scene from Shakespeare is very good, though. Show these a weak slave, for the weakest goes to the wall. True, therefore women, being the weaker vessels, are ever thrust to the wall. They're just talking about bloody... They're talking about their favourite positions when they're sleeping with people this whole time. It's bizarre. But very Shakespeare. Let's do that famous, the Two Gentlemen of Verona, Act 2, Scene 3. The same, a street. Lawrence is talking about his dog. He walks in with his dog in this particular scene and talks with great vigor about various things. It's a fairly interesting scene. People do like this one. Tries very difficult. He's trying very hard, but let's try that. The same a street. Two gentlemen of Verona. Enter Lawrence, leading a dog. Nay, 'twill be the hour ere that I have done weeping. All the kinds of the Lawrences have this very fault. I have received my proportion, like the prodigious sun, and I am going with Sir Proteus to the imperial court. I think Crab, my dog, be the sourest natured dog that lives. My mother weeping, my father wailing, my sister crying, our maid howling, our cat wringing her hands, and all our house in great perplexity. Yet did not this cruel-hearted cur shed one tear. He is a stone, a very pebble stone. He has no more pity in him than a dog. A Jew would have wept more. A Jew would have wept to see our parting. Why, my grandam, having no eyes, look you, wept herself blind at my parting. Nay, I'll show you the manner of it. This shoe is my father. No, this left shoe is my father. No. This left shoe is my mother. Nay, that cannot be. Neither. Yes, it is so. It is so. It has been the worser so. This shoe, with the hole in it, is my mother. And this shoe, my father, a vengeance on it. There 'tis now, sit, this staff, my sister. For look you, she is as white as a lily and as small as a wand. This hat is Nan, our maid. I am the dog. No, the dog is himself. And I am the dog. Oh, no, the dog is me, and I am myself. So. Now I come to my father. Father, your blessing. Now should not the shoe speak a word for weeping? Now should I kiss my father? Well, he weeps on. Now I come to my mother. Oh, that she could speak now like a wood woman. Well, I kiss her. Why, there's my mother's breath up and down. Now 'tis I come to my sister. Mark the moan she makes. Now the dog in all this while sheds not a tear nor speaks a word, but I see how I laid the dust with my tears. It is a very confusing speech. But it's so stupid. Perhaps we should do the translated version. I do like that silliness. Translated version of the Sparks Note version, everyone. Of the same speech. No, it'll be this time tomorrow before I've stopped crying. All the members of the Lance family have this fault. I've received my portion of the family trait, just like the prodigious sun. And now I am going to Proteus, the imperial court in Milan. I think Crab, my dog, has the sourest personality of any dog alive. Even my mother weeping, my father wailing, my sister crying, my maid howling, and our cat wringing her hands, this cruel-hearted mutt didn't shed a single tear. Even the news would have wept to see us saying goodbye to each other. Why, my grandmother, who doesn't have the use of her eyes, you see, cried herself blind when I said goodbye. No, I'll demonstrate what happened. This shoe represents my father. No, this left shoe is my father. No. This left shoe is my mother. No, that can't be right. Yes, it has to be the soul that isn't good. As good. In this shoe with the hole in it is my mother, and this one is my father. Take that. That's right now. Now, sir, this wooden stick is my sister, because you see it is as white as a lily and as thin as a twig. Now, this hat is Nan, our maid. I am the dog. No, wait. The dog is himself. I am the dog. Oh. I mean, the dog is me and I am myself. Okay, that is it. Now I go to my father and say, give me your blessing. Now the shoe can't say a word because it's crying so hard. Now I'll kiss my father. Well, he keeps crying. So I come to my mother. Oh, I wish this shoe could speak full of emotion now. Well, I kiss her. And that's the way it happened. Here's how she breathed from crying so much. Now I come to my sister. Listen, the moan she makes because she is so sad. All the while, the dog doesn't shed a single tear or speak a word. See how I flatten the dust with my tears? Ah, very good, very good. There's another setting. Pantheo enters. Lance, away, away, aboard! Thy master is shipped, and thou art post after the oars. What's the matter? Why'st thou weepest thou? Man, away, ass! You'll lose the tide if you tarry any longer. It is no matter if the tide were lost, for it is the unkindest tide that ever kept any man tied. What is the unkindest tide? Why? That's tied here. Crap, my dog. Man, I mean thou'lt lose the flood, and in losing the flood thy voyage, and in thy losing thy voyage thy master, and in thy losing thy master lose thy service, and in losing thy service. Shh. Why doth stop my mouth? For fear thou shouldst losest thy tongue. Where should I lose my tongue? In thy tail. In thy tail? Lose the tide, and the voyage, and the master, and the service, and the tide. Why, man, if the river were dry, I am able to fill it with my tears. If the winds were down, I would drive the boat with my sighs. Come now, come away, man. I was sent to call thee. Sir, call me what thou darest. Will thou go? Well, I will go. Exit. Stage left. That's a very good one. Oh, very. Why stop thy mouth? Shh. He does it. That's the scene. Shh. Just puts his hand up to his mouth. Lance puts his hand over Panthino's mouth. Just, shh. Be quiet. I am lamenting. Ah, it's very good. Like unkindest thing. I'm afraid you would lose thy tongue. Where should I lose my tongue? In thy tail. In thy tail. By the way, tail is written with the spelling of tail as in dog's tail, sort of thing. Where's the unkindest tide? Well, that is tied here. Crab, my dog. Oh, that is very good. The puns. Beautiful. Spectacular. Real chef's kiss. That's true. Ugh. I laugh, I laugh. How'd you enjoy that one? Oh, puns of puns and puns. There's another good scene. Oh, wonderful. I'm just looked up a list of somebody's. I have a list here. Do you want a cuckold monologue from All's Well or an ass speech from Much Ado About Nothing? 16th century comedy escapes me. Well, it's mostly puns in that one. A tale? It's hard to get when you can't see the writing, but... Do you want a cuckold monologue or an ass speech? I could go for either. Wonderful. Both, I guess. Well, yeah, we've got the time, I suppose. I am trying to find it, this one. Ah, clown. The clown! Act 1, Scene 3. Quite difficult to find some specific speeches. Just trying to find which particular one is. Do apologize, this will take a bit more time than I expected. Act 1, Scene 3. All's well that ends well. There's some very good phrases in Shakespeare, isn't there? Yeah, By the way, the who does this speech is a fool. He's a jester, a fool. So, makes sense that this is his sort of cup of tea. Let's just start from the beginning of the scene. Yes, I suppose they did. I can't think of any reason they wouldn't. I think it was based on some sort of it was probably didn't look like those things. Those three-pointed caps I assume you're talking about. They probably didn't look like that originally. I think they were supposed to represent some sort of animal. Probably an ass. A donkey. It's pretty common for that to be a motif in a lot of fool stuff. Enter Countess, Steward, and Fool. Countess, I will now hear. What say you of this gentlewoman? The steward? Ma'am, the care I have had even to your younger content, even your content I wish might be found in the calendar of my past endeavours. For then we wound our modesty and make foul the clearness of our deservings, when of ourselves we publish them. What does this knave here? What is this knave here? Get out, gone, sirrah. The complaints I have heard of you I do not all believe. 'Tis my slowness that I do not. For I know you lack not folly to commit them, and have ability enough to make such knaveries yours. 'Tis unknown to you, madam. I am a poor fellow. Well, sir, no, madam, 'tis not so well that I am poor. Though many of the rich are damned. But if I may have your ladyship's goodwill to go to the world, Isabel, the woman, and I will do as we may. Wilt thou need to be a beggar? I do beg for your goodwill in this case. In what case? In Isabel's case, and my own. Service is no heritage. And I think I shall never have the blessing of God till I have the issue of my body, for they say bonds are blessings. Tell me the reason why thou wilt marry. My poor body, madame, requires it. I'm driven on by the flesh, and he must needs goes that the devil drives. Is that all your worship reasons? Faith, madame, I have other holy reasons, such as they are. May the world know them. I have been, madam, a wicked creature, as you and all flesh and blood are, and indeed I do marry that I might repent. Thy marriage sooner than thy wickedness. I'm out of friends, madam, and I hope to have a friends for my wife's sake. Such friends are your enemies, knave. You're shallow, madame, in great friends, for the knave come to do that for me which I am aweary of. That he that ears my land spares my team, and gives me leave to in the crop. If I be his cuckold, he is my drudge. He that comforts my wife is the cherisher of my flesh and blood, and he that cherishes my flesh and blood loves my flesh and blood. That he loves my flesh and blood is my friend. Ergo, that he kisses my wife is my friend. And if men could be contented to be what they are, there were no fear in marriage. For young Charbon the Puritan, and old Possum the Papist, howsoever their hearts are served in religion, their heads are both one. They may jowl horns together like any deer at the herd. Wilt thou ever be a foul-mouthed and calumnious knave? A prophet I, madame, and I speak the truth next way. Oh, apparently he sings this. For the ballad I will repeat, which men shall full true shall find, your marriage comes by destiny, your cuckoo sings by kind. Get gone, sir. I'll talk with you no more, anon. May it please you, madam, that he bids you Helen come to you, of her I am to speak. Sirrah, tell my gentlewoman I would speak with her, Helen, I mean. What is this fair cause, quoth she, why gracious sat Croy, fond done fond, was this King Priam's joy. With side she stood, and with side she stood, and gave this sentence then, among nine bad, of one be good. Among nine bad, of one be good. There's yet one good in 10. And what one good in 10? You corrupt the song, sirrah. One good woman in 10, madame, which is purifying of the song. Would God serve the world so all the year? We'd find no fault with the tithe woman, if I were the parson. 1 in 10, quoth he. And we may have a good woman born, but of every blazing star, at an earthquake. 'Twould mend the lottery well. A man may draw his heart out and pick one. Begone, you'll be gone, sir knave, and do as I command you. That man should be at woman's command, and yet no hurt done. Though honesty be no Puritan, yet will do no hurt. It will wear the surplice of humility over the black gowns of a big heart. I am going, forsooth. The business is for Helen to come hither. And there is that particular little speech. Interesting little one, isn't it? It really is a cuckold speech. Man knows where his heart lies, I suppose. Can't judge him for that. Would you like my, yes, I am the jester, little voice, eh? I can't do a very good woman's voice. I can only do like a, delicate voice. Begone, foul knave. Reminds me of some modern fools. Yes, indeed. But it does not remind me of the modern cuckold. Except for the ones who are, confident in their own sexuality, but they don't tend to be the ones on the internet. These days, cuckold has a much more negative connotation. Perhaps it did back then, but the fool clearly was confident in what he wanted. He can work the fields more. Oh, look, they're back. They loved that one. Now, start with the start of it. Apparently the much ado about nothing speech of Dogberry. Great name. We have 3 characters here. Well, 2 characters. Let's just go. One character leaves, and these 2 characters are talking. Dogberry and Verges. Oh no, there is a third one. Conrad. So Dogberry, Verges, and Conrad. What names? Come, let them be opinioned. Let them be in the hands. Off, coxcomb. God, my life, where is Sexton? Let him write down the prince's offer, Prince's office, coxcomb. Come, bind them, thou naughty varlet. Away! You're an ass! You're an ass! Doth'st thou not suspect my place? Doth'st thou not suspect my years? Oh, that he were here to write them down, me down an ass. But, masters, remember that I am an ass. Though it be not written down, yet forget not that I am an ass. No, thou villain, thou art full of piety, as I shall be proved upon thee by God's witness. I am a wise fellow, and which is more, an officer, and which is more, a householder, and which is more, a pretty piece of flesh, as any is in Messina, and one that I knows the law go to, and a rich fellow enough to go to, and a fellow that hath had losses, and one that hath 2 gowns, everything, and handsome about him. Bring him away, and oh, that I have been writ down an ass. Essentially, how can you call me that? Don't you suspect my office? Don't you suspect my age? Oh, if only Sexton were here to write me down that I am an ass. Gentlemen, remember that I am an ass, even though it is not written down. Do not forget that I am an ass. Oh, you're a rotten bastard, you are. I'm a wise man, and what's more, I'm an officer of the law, and a householder. I'm also a handsome hunk of meat, as any in Messina. I know the law, damn you, and I'm rich enough, damn you. And I used to have more, but I still have 2 robes and a lot of lovely things. Take him away. If only Sexton had recorded that I am an ass. He's determined to be known as an ass, isn't he? But yeah, Shakespeare did quite. I'm surprised Shakespeare has been cancelled for calling women's pieces of flesh. He calls himself men pieces of flesh, pieces of meat. A pretty piece of flesh. That's what they were saying in the Shakespeare, the one before, in the Bite My Thumb at You one, in the Verona, Act Scene 1. Where is it? Me they shall feel while I'm able to stand, and 'tis known that I am a pretty piece of flesh, says Samson. You see, Shakespeare was more likely to call his men pretty pieces of flesh. Do you bite my thumb at you, sir? I do bite my thumb, sir. Do you bite your thumb at us, sir? Is the law on our side if I say I? No. No, sir, I do not bite my thumb at you, sir. Nope, they're talking about themselves. Yeah, it's quite surprising, isn't it? Didn't quite expect them. Didn't quite expect that, did you? He got bit his thumb at you, sir. Ah. I bite my thumb at you, sir. Very good. Ugh. Now, monologues. There's actually an interesting thing. I have an interesting, wow, the original tweet did not get much. Yes. He likes calling men a pretty piece of flesh. There's a few more interesting features. Some historians have tried to claim he was a fancier of men. Well, he possibly could be. It's hard to say. Perhaps he was a fancier of both sexes. Wouldn't surprise me. He did have quite the connection with both. And quite high up in Elizabethan court, so he was likely very untouchable. So. So it wouldn't surprise me, yes. I got distracted. Also, some claims that he didn't write his own words. Somebody else did. Yes, what was that phrase? The other fame at the conspiracy. There's also a conspiracy that he was another writer as well. Shakespeare didn't write his own. Where is the phrase? Hmm. Shakespeare of Death, James Wilmot. Anti-Stratforian argument is romantic and compelling. It's based on shoddy things. The classist argument. There you go. They believe he didn't. There was no evidence of his writing, other than the plays themselves. So they believed he didn't actually write at all. That's right, Christopher Marlowe. Some people believe it was Christopher Marlowe. They believe it was either Francis Bacon or Christopher Marlowe. Or some maybe believe it's Queen Elizabeth herself was just using William Shakespeare's name, so she could use him as a writer, ghostwriter, because, women weren't so well thought of in the literary sphere, no matter the era you get to, unfortunately. But it's an interesting conspiracy. Oh, wow, this person. That's an interesting way of looking at it. The anti-Stratfordian theory is classist. To sometimes focus on the issue of education, the idea that a young country boy with no particular parentage could have possibly written Shakespeare's plays. Where did he learn all his French, Latin, and Greek? Wouldn't the plays have to be written by a nobleman with access to a thorough education? But Shakespeare was most likely educated in Stratford's grammar school, where the curriculum covered most of the Shakespeare, the poet's favourite sources, and was heavy on Greek, Latin, and foreign languages. Taming of the Shrew, one of Shakespeare's earliest comedies, even referenced the same Latin grammar book that the Stratford Free School used. And so this person claims that the argument was in fact classist. Completely unbelievable to these people that the son of a Glover could have written the greatest literature of the English language. Interesting. Who would have known? I did hear of that conspiracy thing, but it's an interesting thing. That sort of conspiracy is always fun and compelling because in the end, it's true. We can't prove it wrong. That's the thing about most of these sort of conspiracy theories. I can't prove it wrong. It's the past. The past is done. The past is gone. It's disappeared into the annals of history. We all have is his name and the claims of everyone around him, but it becomes difficult to ignore so many people. So many people at the time knew Shakespeare as Shakespeare. He was very famous. So it's hard to believe so many people would be in on it, It's the same thing as the moon landing. It's too many people would have to lie, and people just suck at that. There's a reason why spy work is so popular. Because people screw up all the time. People say these sort of things. Information will never stay hidden. Because people are stupid. Speaking of conspiracies, I suppose Shane Cleveland Sorkin was a brain dead and someone else was controlling his computer to say what they want. Again, that one's definitely more disprovable because it's likely that there are records. And if you look at it at the surface, you're like, wow, but it's true. He could be. That's based on the very small thing that Stephen Hawking was a man in a chair who didn't use his own voice for a very long time. You could make a theory, but the problem is too many people would have to lie about that. Bloody hell, I can't even get my family to lie about a surprise party for long enough to stop people from finding it out. How the hell do they expect hundreds of people to lie about that? It's ridiculous. But it's fun food for thought, I suppose. Can't say it's not amusing. I am remiss to not say that I have watched a lot of these conspiracy theory videos just because I find it interesting to see their points, to, go along with the joke as like a piece of fiction, I suppose. Makes you think of, what if the world was more fantastical than it is? But that's the other thing I've learned when I've gotten older. It's just not that fun. If it sounds too fun to be true, it probably isn't true. Same should be applied to my stories. Ever read Watchmen? I believe I have. Yes, that's right. I don't know why I suddenly forgot Watchmen. Yes, I have read part of my nephew borrowed the actual graphic novel from a friend of his, and I read it then. I also watched the movie. I unfortunately don't like either. I can see what they're trying to say. It's just a bit rough for me. It's a bit depressingly too much like reality for me to enjoy it, But I understand its themes and what it's trying to get across. It's satire, a cruel poke at the golden age of superhero films. It's a very similar thing in the The Boys, that other graphic novel that got turned into a TV show. At least that one was funner. In a sort of Shakespearean dirty joke sort of way. Ozymandias had everyone involved in a conspiracy to kill each other in a pyramid until there was only 2 left, and then he killed them. Good fun. Wasn't his whole thing, but he's also a god, so I assume if there's some sort of... He was very intelligent, wasn't he, Ozymandias? Ozymandias wasn't just the name of him, he was taken something, right? Ozymandias... He was a peak human. Oh, I see. I couldn't remember. It's been a very long time since I've read it and watched it. Because I didn't like it, I kind of did it once, scanned over it. Because I remember Ozymandias being a poem, if I remember correctly. Or something. Oh no, a sonnet. Sonnet written by the English Romantic poet Percy... Well, it's a poem, but it's a sonnet poem. Ozymandias was a tyrant, a dictator, and a megalomaniac. Or something of immense size, a colossus. Count Warriors derives from sonnet entitled Ozymandias, where he describes the decay of that old colossal wreck, boundless and bare. Oh, Ozymandias was also the Greek name for... Was the Greek name for the pharaoh Ramses II. I see. There you go. Oh, why was your message redacted? Interesting. You say something naughty, Tiberian? Let's read this Ozymandias poem. For the funsies. I meant poem. Oh. I'm not too sure what you said otherwise. I met a traveller from an antique land who said 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, who frown, and wrinkled lip, and sneer of cold command, tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive stamped in these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them, and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appears, my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings, Look upon my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands that stretch far away. Look upon ye mighty and despair. That was that poem. Oh, I'd forgotten about that poem. I've said that phrase a lot, but mostly in a comedic situation. I'd walk in a stupid outfit at a costume party, and I'd be like, look upon my works, ye mighty, and despair. Or I'd be really good in a video game and do the same thing. It's a great phrase. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look upon my works, ye mighty, and despair. My voice is getting quite rough, isn't it? Oh dear, it's almost already 2 hours again. Yeah. What other things by Shelley can we find? That's a very nice one. But yes, that does match Ozymandias in The Watchmen. That certainly, what is the phrase? It tracks. That's it. Certainly tracks with his sort of thing. I heard the quotes, but I never knew the origin. Now you do. The famous Percy Shelley. Percy Shelley, a poet from the late 18th century, early 19th century, I believe. A very famous poet. And that is a very famous poem, Ozymandias. Should have read those ones and the other ones. Ozymandias is the only real superhero in Watchmen. Yes, the rest are interesting. I thought a couple of them had powers, right? I know the detective didn't. What's his name? Rorschach didn't. They did a very impressive job with that in the movie. Very impressive job. His face. Another one of Shakespeare's sonnets is quite interesting. He plays around with his own name in one of his sonnets, actually. While we think about this, just want to do it for the fun of it. Let's see if I can actually do it without stumbling constantly. Sonnet 135. Shakespeare's Sonnet 135. Whoever hath her wish, thou hast thy will, and will to boot, and will an overplus. More than enough I am that vexed thee still, to sweet will making and dishing thus. Wilt thou, whose will is large and spacious, not once vouchsafe to hide my will and thine? Not shall will and others seem right gracious, and in my will, though no fair acceptance shine. In sea all water yet receives rain still, and in abundance addeth to his store. So thou, being rich in will, add thy will. One will of mine to make thy large will more. Let no unkind, no fair beseechers kill. Think all but one and me in that one will. All the others are just guys in costumes who are their own selfish motivations of being superheroes. I suppose so. Ozymandias was the only one who had that sort of idealist, sort of bigger image sort of nature. Didn't he try and kill everyone though, and set off a bomb in New York City? Now his powers were so disconnected from his humanity, he had no morality, so he wasn't really a hero. Yes, you're talking about Dr. Manhattan. He did that to stop a global nuclear war. Oh, I see. He's a sort of for the greater good sort of mellow. I see. In a world at peace, there had to be sacrifice. Hmm? Interesting fellow, though. Ah. Adrian Alexander Vert, the former costume adventurer and billionaire industrialist who draws inspiration from his hero, Alexander the Great, and Egyptian pharaoh Ramses II, both known for war. Interestingly enough, Ramses II was very well known. It's weird as written. Had that sort of idealist moral code, and also the whole discussion of do the ends justify the means sort of thing. Alan Moore was more surprised when people didn't side with him. Yeah. Yes! It's because he was so It's the reason why people don't side with billionaires. Even if they are self-made billionaires. Tall poppy syndrome, I suppose. And also, people are cautious to accept ends justify the means mindset. Mostly because of individual rationality, but we're not all so beautiful to be unselfish, unfortunately. He is the hero of the story, in a way. Good old Ozymandias. And he did end nuclear war, I suppose. More Americans sided with Rorschach. Well, Rorschach was the... He was the sort of man of the time, I suppose. He's the down on his luck detective, just trying to find the answers. He's selfish, pursuing his own goal, but he's driven. Like the common man, people can probably feel more like him than they can feel like Adrian Veidt. They can probably, funnily enough, they can more connect with Rorschach, probably. Rorschach was very good at what he did, but he never felt, well, I remember him never really feeling beyond, beyond people. Adrian Veidt had become something beyond human, almost. Nobody could connect with him. It's quite difficult. I'm speaking out of my arse, but I'm trying to kind of make connections. Ozymandias was a billionaire, a self-made billionaire, but he was also the smartest man alive. He may have ideals and he may have the will to do what must be done, but that makes people afraid of you more often than not. Especially when it comes to wielding such vast power. Rorschach doesn't have that vast power, so people are more likely to side with him. People are afraid of the more powerful. It would be the same thing if a billionaire did it these days. If a billionaire made a giant super monster to make world peace and blew up Manhattan, I think you would find most people wouldn't side with them. Actions, unfortunately, speak far louder than words. People will not see that they stopped and created world peace. They will see a tyrant, a villain. Was Ozymandias right was the first thing. In a broad sense. But yes, he did what he needed to do, not because he hated the world, but because he wanted to save it. That's nice. But it's true that people... Right back down to the superhero, this restoration of monologues. Yes, I've discussed it with people before, but it has been a number of years. Probably over a decade now. Hmm. It's very interesting. A lot of people discuss it. Moral absolutism. Interesting guy. Oh dear. I almost wish I hadn't sold my car. I should read Watchmen. I've only watched the movie. I think the reading experience is probably a lot less painful than the movie. I found the book to be much more enjoyable. If I'm remembering it correctly, it's been a while. Hmm. It's hard to say. He's very interesting. Yes, you should read it, Joe Hank. It's not a bad series. Perhaps one day I'll read a bit of it. We can have a bit of a Watchmen watch along. I don't know how to do those watch alongs. Something that I plan to do at some point. People seem to do it. It seems fun. It's a good way to make me watch movies that I wouldn't normally. So I shall do a watch along of the Watchmen movie, which is quite funny. We're watching the Watchmen movies while you watch me watch the Watchmen movie. Movie doesn't catch the themes actually. Zack Snyder turned it into an action movie about down on their luck superheroes. Yes, that's true. The book is a bit longer too, so I'd suggest the movie is a fun romp, but the book is always going to have more theming. The problem with movies is it's very difficult to keep that sort of theming. Theming is tough to transcribe through mediums, I feel. It's always the thing that gets lost. Because, of course, a movie is an interpretation, a spin off, a demonization, I suppose, in some people's eyes, of the original work. It's always going to be. So, it's going to be filtered through the lens of the person who made the movie. I didn't even realize there was a 2019 series. Goes to show how much I keep up with that sort of thing. Oh, another bot. Good fun. I honestly didn't even realize there was a 2019 series. Honestly, didn't even realize. I'm just advertising myself on Twitter again. We'll keep going for a bit longer. This hasn't been as popular as my other singing streams. It's a bit of a shame. But yes, what if there's any good quotes? Does anyone have any good speeches in The Watchmen? The series had nothing to do with the original story. I see. Because there was only ever one Watchmen graphic novel, right? Hmm. Well, we could do the Dr. Manhattan thing. Dr. Manhattan speech. His depressing speech. I'm pretty sure he has a speech, right? Where's his monologue? He has a monologue, right? There they are. Here we are. Yeah, here it is. Dr. Manhattan's monologue. Comment. Dr. Manhattan's monologue. I am looking at the stars. They're so far away, and their light takes so long to reach us. All we see of the stars are their old photographs. It is July 1959, and I am in love. Her name is Janie Slater. She's a physicist like me. I'm 30 years old. We were introduced by a good friend of mine from college, Wally Weaver. It is February 12th, 1981. Wally dies of cancer, and which they say now I am the cause. That night, Janie and I make love for the first time. A month from now, the accident awaits me. I cross the room to the intrinsic field center. I find my watch. When I get to the wall door, Wally's turning white. I am terrified. I cross in. It is May 12th, 1959, when I'm introduced to Janie. She buys me a beer. First time a woman has ever done this for me. As she passes me the cold, aspiring glass, our fingers touch. I feel fear for the last time. A token funeral is held. There is nothing to bury. Janie frames the snapshot. It's the only photograph of me anyone has. A circulatory system is seen by the perimeter fence. A few days later, a partially muscled skeleton stands in a hallway and screams for a moment before vanishing. They call me Dr. Manhattan. They explain the name has been chosen for the ominous associations it will raise in America's enemies. They are shaping me into something gaudy, something lethal. In January 1971, President Nixon asked me to intervene in Vietnam, something his predecessors would not ask. A week later, the conflict ends, and some of the Viet Cong forces want to surrender to me personally. Hollis Masons, a retired costume hero, writes a book. In it, he calls my arrival the dawn of the superhero. I'm not sure if I know what that means. It is Christmas, 1963. Janie tells me that she is afraid and worried. She says I'm like a god now. I tell her I don't think there is a god, and if there is, I'm nothing like him. I tell her I still want her, and that I always will. As I lie to her, it is September 4th, 1970. I am in a room full of people wearing disguises. A young girl looks at me and smiles. She's beautiful. After a long kiss, she plants a smaller, gentler one upon my lips, like a signature. Janie accuses me of chasing jailbait. She bursts into angry tears, asking if it's because she's getting older. It's true. She's aging more noticeably every day, while I am standing still. I prefer the stillness here. I'm tired of Earth. These people, I'm tired of being caught up in the tangle of their lives. They claim their labors are to build heaven. Yet their heaven is populated with horrors. Perhaps the world is not made. Perhaps nothing is made. A clock without a craftsman. It is too late. It always has been, and it will always be too late. There you go. There's a speech. Depressing one. As depressing as I remember. Tragic fellow is Dr. Manhattan, isn't it? Tragic indeed. Oh, goodness. Sorry. How'd we enjoy that? Speech of Manhattan. One of those things, my friends. One of those things. It's quite a depressing speech, but it makes sense. I don't know about tragic. He didn't care for much after his transformation. But to a human, it was death. He died. That's the best way of putting it. A tragedy of death. And then he became something else, something not human. Some would see it as a boon. He is now away from everything, but as you can see, he has nothing, and he cares that he has nothing, and in that way, it's tragic to an observer. I'm sure he doesn't have a problem with it. Like Robocop. It's a loss of humanity, and that's a tragedy. Who knows? Perhaps it might have been better for him to have died that day in the accident. But that's not for the future to tell. Quite dramatic, really. But it's a sad thing. A token wedding, yes. But a token funeral, yes, but Dr. Manhattan was born, the physicist was dead. So she's getting old, she's right. While I am still blue, dabba dee dabba die. Dabba dee dabba die. I'm an observer. A tragedy's a tragedy not just because the people in the tragedy suffer. It's a certain feeling, and it also shows something. The destruction was of people, and a lot of that was a tragedy. I'd say Dr. Manhattan, like the whole story is close to a tragedy, not quite Shakespearean style, but there's a lot of death, and it's all caused by characters' flaws. And that's usually what makes a tragedy. Character flaws are shown to obviously lead to death. In Dr. Manhattan's case, he just goes off and sits in the middle of a rock and Mars. Because he knows everything and is everything and all where. He knows everything and therefore does nothing. Isn't that the whole phrase? Those who do everything can't do anything. Those who know everything don't do anything, and those who do know nothing do everything. But yes, what time is it? We'll go for a couple more minutes, then we'll finish up. There you go, you brought a suggestion. Good job, everyone. Look, I can clap. Didn't realize it would actually work. I wonder if there's any funny monologues. Monologues. Yes, good old Robocop. Wow, it's been a while since I've watched that movie, too. Of that series as well. I should quote the room. I did not. I did not hit her. I did not. This is bullshit. Story had quite a good monologues, didn't it? Yes, it did. Do you know The Century, a comic from the 2000s? I really wasn't much in the comic scene. So, other than the very famous ones, like Watchmen and the like. I see. What was it about, J. Hank? Was it just a golden era superhero? It looks sort of like a golden hero superhero thing. Golden era superhero, but I'm not too sure. Is it fictional character in the Marvel comics? First appears in The Century. Yes, it is a Marvel's comic century, yes. Hmm. He started off as a parody of Superman, didn't he? Couldn't say. He does seem a bit very nice. Creation, let's read it. In 1990s, Paul Jenkins and Rick Felix developed an idea by Jenkins about an over-the-hill guy struggling with an addiction who had a tight relationship with his dog. A proposal for Marvel Comics' Marvel Knights line. Jenkins conceived the idea of the character of a Guardian type, the Watchtower, and came up with the name Sanctuary, after previously considering Centurion. Veitch suggested the character could be woven into the history of the Marvel Universe, with versions of the character from the 1940s depicted in artistic styles matching the comics of each period. Also suggested that some cataclysmic event, all recollection of the Sanctuary would have been removed from everyone's memory, including his own. Jenkins and Veitch decided they created not only a fictional history for the Sanctuary within the Marvel Universe, but also fictional publication history in the real world, complete with imaginary creators. Juan Pinkles and Chick Rivet, anagrams of Paul Jenkins and Rick Veitch. Jenkins pitched the comic concept to Marvel Knights editor Joe Questa. Questa decided to commission a miniseries written by Jenkins with art by Jay Lee, who Jenkins had previously worked on the Inhuman Mysteries. Red Reynolds being the greatest hero from Marvel, but the world suddenly forgot about him and he must return to face his long-time rival. It's really cool. It seems quite interesting. I am a sucker for over-the-hill characters. Relate with them a lot, as you can see. I'm certainly over the hill myself. Interesting fella. And an interesting concept, making up fake comics to act as if he always existed in the comic history. Oop. Quite interesting. Oh, my rear end is complaining. Meaning my gluteus maximus is having trouble. Very interesting. Could say was on that story, because Marvel didn't know how to handle him in later stories. So just with his original run, eh? I see. Oh, excuse me. Whoa. Just limited those areas about ancient heroes that brought modern age from the 1942 great characters back from there. Yeah. There's a lot of comic stuff. It was such a deep and wide history, but comics never really, I felt, made it to over here to Australia. I can't say I see many comic stores even these days. There were comic stores, but you'd be hard-pressed to find them, and they'd be hard-pressed to have what you're looking for. Weren't as a bigger thing as in a public culture in Australia. So, not as much a thing. Ugh. We had our own stuff, but because the only comics I ever remember were the Australian comics like Foot Trot Flats and the like. Comedy comics you'd see in like a Foot Trot Flats classic. Good by old Murray Ball. He's New Zealander actually though, but it's the only one I can think of. Good fun though. I have a lot of them. I wonder if he's still writing them. It was called The 12. The 12. You guys read a lot of comics, did you? Seems. Limited companies, series 12 obscure heroes from Marvel's earliest incarnations as timely comics from the 1940s. They do look interesting, don't they? Why are the pictures so tiny? Over the fellow in shorts, eh? Oh, excuse me. Goodness. We've become very distracted. Some of these. The Blue Dashing and Cavalier, The Blue Blade, A Swashbuckling Adventure by J. Michael Straczynski and Kristen Weston. Very fun. I've only read a few of the issues. I don't even know where I'd find a way to access these issues, frankly. There you go. Interesting. It's a man enough time situation, from what the synopsis seems to be. Vector graphic novels on Amazon US. Yes, but unfortunately it's not on Amazon Australia, and oh well, I can check if it's on Amazon Australia, probably. Probably is. FBI. Rockman Benone's being cut off from interesting. Interesting indeed. The Blue Blade, the Black Widow, Captain Wonder, Dynamic Man, Electro, the Fiery Mask, Laughing Mask, Mastermind Excello, Mr. E, Phantom Reporter, Rockman, The Witness. Ship worldwide. Shipping costs is probably through the roof. Oh, yes, I know. I had to order a Christmas present for someone. That the shipping was over the roof. That is unfortunately how it is. But I think we should start thinking about finishing up. I think we will start finishing up. I have some exercise to do. I'm going out with my nephew today. Doing some exercise. It's very fun. We'll see how that goes. Other than that, let's continue talking a bit. Let's finishing up with something. It's got to be something I can finish up with. Available in Comixology. You can buy it digital. Oh, nice. So let's finish up with 2 Shakespearean sonnets. Shall we? Just for old time's sake. Old times being 2.5 hours ago. 138, and I believe background music? I turned that off a while ago. I'll turn it back on when we're finishing up. Ah, half an hour was a long time ago. Looks at the sunset. Time passes, my friends. It is the nature of things. As we look off into the middle sunset. I just wanted to do one more. 138. When my love swears that she is made of truth. When my love swears that she is made of truth, I do believe her, though I know she lies. That she might think of me some untutored youth, unlearned in the world's false subtleties, thus vainly thinking that she thinks me young. Although she knows my days are past the best, simply I credit her false-speaking tongue. On both sides thus is a simple truth suppressed. But wherefore says she not, she is unjust? And wherefore say not that I am not old, that I am old? O love's best habit is in seeming trust, and age in love loves not to have years old. Years told. Therefore I lie with her and she with me, and in our faults by lies we flattered be. And that's where we finish for today. I was tempted to go for 3 hours, but it could have been the case. It could have been the case. Next time, perhaps. Well, I'm trying to go for 2.5 hours exactly, so I'm going to be killing time for the next 2 minutes anyway. But yes. I think but dare not speak these sorts of mine, their implications dark and dangerous. Can't do that, that's a very long monologue, and it's mine. Shall I compare these to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely than temperament. Thank you for the scream. No problem. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please subscribe. It's very fun. We have a lot of fun here. And please watch other things, and watch out. Hopefully by the end of this week, I'm making this promise, I'll have another edited video out so you can watch that. It'll probably be sitting around 20-25 minutes long because I can't keep things consistent. But yes, it'll be edited and out. It'll be fun. So watch out for that, mate. Alright. And tomorrow night, we shall be starting. As always, I should turn my music back on. We will be starting our playthrough of Yakuza. Yakuza 0. That will be continued on Saturday and Sunday. No, Sunday will be a puzzle game. We'll be playing Inside. Thank you, J. Hank. I like to make my streams interesting, at least. I do get lost in it all. I'm not funny or clever, but I do know I like talking and being interesting. So, please, thank you. And please and thank you for enjoying. Please enjoy and thank you for enjoying. Why does everyone pick Yakuza 0? It isn't the first Yakuza game, but it is known as the best entry point for the series. I did research. Kiwami is the one that is the actual, chronologically the first one, but Yakuza 0 is the most beginner-friendly, I suppose. It does have a lot of references that we beginners don't understand, but apparently the systems are nice, the game is quite fun. It's a much more level entry to the series. So, Yakuza 0 it is. It's what I found after researching, which I should start with. So, yes. Yes, Inside on the Saturday. I do have a scream schedule. A scream schedule on my Twitter. It's also a cool game to watch. All the VTubers play it. It's a very fun series. I've watched somebody play it before, and it's very fun. Yeah, my stream schedule is posted on my Twitter. Unfortunately, it's not very good. But it's there. It's all in AST. So yes, that'll be fun. It'll be my next long game. I'll play a puzzle game on Sunday for the funsies, and next week. This week I might try and organise something. We'll see. Maybe I'll collab next week. We'll see. I'll see if I can organise a collaboration with someone. Other than that, I think I've talked for long enough. As always, good night, sweet dreams, and don't let the nasty dog bite. Where's that dog? Crab. And don't let crab bite. Good night, sleep tight, and don't let crab bite, for he is the foulest creature to ever walk the land. Night night all, good morning all, and good day. Have fun, and see you next time.